y'all. Hey, people. If you can't see my face, that's because I'm driving, and I just wanted to focus on the road. But I really wanted to just get this out there because I have been thinking about it for a while, and I figure, well, since I have a long drive, I might as well talk about it. So during the pandemic, right, amongst a lot of things that had happened, the hospital systems being overloaded, many jobs being expired, many jobs going remote, food chain supply, just supply and demand, a lot of things had changed. Agriculture, things going on with farmers, and then us realizing as Americans, right, because we live in America, that a lot of our supply comes from export, and export being different countries and so forth. One of the things that I paid attention to for the longest, because around that time, during the pandemic, I was working for the public sector, and then like towards the end of the pandemic, I switched over back to private sector. And one of the things that I really noticed that was different about corporate, especially corporate America, is that a lot of positions were merged with other positions. It's not even responsibilities. It was more so for instance, let's say you work, I'll use this example, right? Let's say you work in training, right? Let's say you worked in the learning and development field, right? And let's say not only were the train, so prior to the pandemic, the trainer was the trainer. So that's the facilitator. That is the person that trains oncoming people into a certain department, into a certain company. They inform them, they educate them about sometimes some of the HR processes. They inform them about the background of the companies, all the do's and don'ts, and then they train them on their particular job. Now, sometimes trainers will have to know 2 to 3 departments to train on, or it'll just be 1 or 2, right? Post-pandemic, I noticed that, and I'm using the training department as an example, they're merging the trainer, the person that builds the content or the education piece, and then the person that designed it, all into one position. Now, prior to the pandemic, it wasn't like that, because each in itself is a very integral and very important role. Post-pandemic, now I'm noticing a lot of companies are just intermingling all these positions. They're not job descriptions, but all these different positions into one. I'll use another example. That's like if you work in the restaurant business and you have the prep cook, the person that bakes, and the assistant GM all in one position. That's basically what's going on. And so they're taking several different roles, repurposing the name, so they're giving it this fancy name, this name that looks so, important and high and might. But when you get down into the details, and then what I find is interesting is they're putting a lot of what they want in the job description, but they're not putting everything. It's not until you actually get the interview, and then they're basically breaking it down to say, okay, well, yeah, we want you to do this, this, and this. But they're saying it at the most complex, not even the most complex level, the most basic level. I've heard from people where they'll get into the position and now they're wanting them to do complex things that they never talked about in the interview. Never discussed it, not in the first interview, the second interview, or the third interview. things are shifting in the job sector. Things are severely shifting in the job sector. Besides a lot of the things that I believe they wanted to reset during the fake-demic, I'll say the pandemic. I'm not going to say it was, people weren't fake or whatnot. I'll just say the pandemic. They have resetted so many different industries that I believe is just going to be a domino effect. And one of the things we may be noticing first is going to be the job market. Now, in regular dominoes, things happen quick. But in this domino effect of what they have reset it, I believe that we won't see it all at once. We're going to gradually see it. And it's almost like it's layers upon layers of what we'll see that has been resetted. In the corporate arena, that's one of the first things that I've seen that they have been doing. They have been taking 3 different separate roles, 3 different separate layers. They have commingled it into one completely grand title, just to basically not only cut down on certain departments, but to basically get more out of the person for a little bit. This is what I'm noticing. The second thing that I'm noticing that it's coming. It's here already. But I think a lot of companies are doing a taste or testing, right? They're doing a testing. Like if you were in science, you have to go through all these different layers before you do the main testing that you need to do. I forgot what the names are, but they are doing a testing, and the testing will be performance. I believe a lot of jobs, right? Now, I don't know if they're going to start in the technology field or if they have not already started in the technology field, but I know it has trickled into corporate, which is major for the and why is this major? Well, right now, most corporate jobs, it's a salary base. It's either salary based or hourly based. There's no pay for performance. There's no pretty much like, for instance, insurance agents, real estate agents, anything in those fields, right? Those are more, they call them commission only position, but really what they are is pay for performance. The better you perform, the better you get paid, right? The better you perform, the more you perform, the more essentially, the more you will get paid. That's just one, like an example. Maybe I could use another field, but that's the closest field that could come to my top of my mind, because sometimes, especially in real estate, since I come from that world, you could perform for 6, 7, 8 months straight, and you don't even get any pay from it until probably the following year. So it's almost like you're stacking, or you're building upon momentum. And then the theory is, okay, in 6 months time, 8 months time, 12 months time, you will get the benefits of all the work that you put in. Pay for performance is more on, based on, so for instance, as a company, I can say, hey, I won't pay you salary. I want, and it'll look very, very it'll look very beneficial to the end user. So the person that's going to get employed, it'll look so beneficial, but there's an underlying tone to it. So basically, let's say for a regular job, right? As a company, I'm willing to pay you $4,000 a month, right? Salary. All right. You come in, you do your work. I'm going to pay you $4,000 salary. with pay for performance as a company, what I can do is I can say, listen, I'll give you 3 tiers. The first tier is if you make this, if you perform this way, you will get your $4,000. If you perform, or no, I'll say you'll get your $3,000. Tier 2, if you perform this way, you'll get $6,000. Tier 3, if you perform this way, then you'll get $10,000. Where here's the thing, with all of those tiers, remember, there is a contract that you're writing, that you're signing, basically saying, for these tiers, you have to make this spectrum. If you don't make this spectrum, remember, you sign it on the dotted line. I don't care. I don't get to pay you. So imagine if you put in all the work and they feel as if you only got to tier 1 and you put in all this work. Remember, you're not salary. So they could come and they could pay you the $3,000. It's a gamble. It's a gamble. Those are just a vague example of pay for performance. It is not concrete, but what I'm seeing in especially in the corporate industry, pay for performance is here. I don't know where they're testing it out. Pay for performance, it's here, and they're gonna start rolling it out. If they're consolidating 3 different positions into one, that's the next thing that they're going to do. Not only that, there's a lot of positions that they're not talking about, but there's a lot of positions that they removed because of AI. AI was around. So remember, if anybody work in certain industries where you could chat a representative, you could chat a live representative. If anybody paid attention for the last couple of years, I would say the last 2 years, maybe the last 3 years, if you notice certain companies, you were already chatting with robots. And if you notice, they had pre-recorded templates, they had printed out templates, right? Typed out templates. And anything outside of that, they'll either say, hey, you need to reach out the next day to the company, or they'll get you directly to a live representative. Well, they already upped the game. Pretty soon, we're just going to be chatting with nothing but, AI technology. 100%. They're not going to have to really transfer us over to any representative. And then on top of that, there are a lot of positions that they pretty much are going to eradicate, because they're going to find a technology that deals with AI, and their mindset is going to be, well, instead of spending all this money on man hours, I could get half of that by purchasing this technology. Or they'll pay for the technology, and the first year it may cost them a lot of money, but then they do the long range of how much is going to save them in the next 5 or the next 10 years and man hours, because as they have the technology, as they tweak it to what they need in their company, little by little, they're going to remove people from that department. Most companies, they have long range, especially when they're investing into such a huge technology, they always are thinking long range. So I say this to say, if you are in corporate, start either paying down your debts, or start grinding hard and figuring out, okay, if I have to essentially not be here anymore, what's the next thing that I could do? I'm gonna do another video about skills, because that's another big push that they're doing. If people is not paying attention, it seems like they're no longer, well, I've been corporate America, they didn't require they didn't require degrees. I found that out the hard way when I got into corporate America and I had to work my way up. And I realized really quick, like, wow, it seems like they push this agenda to certain statures, to certain groups, to certain cultures, to make it seem like, yeah, you need a degree. And then when you get into it, depending on the department, you find out you a subordinate to someone that just got a GED. I mean, and it's been going on around for years. It's just never really been publicized to the public. But now this, like I said, this thing in the pandemic reset everything. It reset everything. So again, if you are in corporate, just think about that in the positions that you're in. Look to see, are you in a position that they're essentially eradicating or they're consolidating? That is a perfect time to either go to a smaller company, right? Oh, this is so good. Going to a smaller company where they would need you and okay, you got another good 10, 15 years out of them, or 10 years. Nobody's not really staying in jobs 15 years, but just look into that. Look into enhancing your skills, or just look into entrepreneurship. All right, you guys, y'all be blessed and have a good night.